Okay, folks, welcome back. I was able to find the story because I found the tweet on Jackie Bruno's page. Now, just to let you know, Michael is back on the line here, so we can kind of react to this together here. This was from last week. Again, 2 days after we had a tampon related call, and it's not safe for the most mainstream audience, but I haven't watched the 10. I mean, yes, I still have cable. Yes, I still watch some news here and there, but I really have not watched Necn in God knows how long, because when they moved to Needham, it became this fluffy news format. Now, I'm not saying that I'm trashing the 10 here, because I mean, Jackie's a sweetheart of an anchor lady who's been on New England TV for years, it feels like. So I'm just going to play the clip right now, because I did see the one that she posted on social media, which Michael has, I think, alluded to. So I'll just run this in real time and go from there. About the channel here. Because it's muted.
Of periods. A period is not a curse. It is not an omen. It is a biological process that, according to Global Citizen, 800 million people experience daily.
A challenge from Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley to speak frankly about periods. Tonight on the 10, we are going in depth on the subject of period equity, shedding light on period poverty, and hopefully finding ways to laugh about the ridiculousness of the stigma and continued ignorance surrounding menstruation. And that is our starting point tonight. So let's start with the stigma. I want to show you all the ways I have hidden a tampon at work. So I put it down my shirt before, I put one in my shoe. Let me show you how I get that out. There it is. I've even slipped one up my sleeve, because you know you gotta hide these things. But I'm a 36-year-old mom of 2 boys, so here's some photo proof of that. So it's really no secret that I menstruate. But for some reason, I, like many women, feel I have to smuggle these products as if I'm on some covert mission to get them to the bathroom at work. And I am not alone here. Here's Dr. Catherine White on the social stigma surrounding menstruation.
This is anything from jokes about people being dirty or unclean when they're on their periods, or referring to PMS in a very derogatory way. And the implications that people who menstruate are unstable at those times in the month, that they can't do their job appropriately, or as well as people who do not menstruate. And then the isolation and the shame that happens when people are on their period and feel like they can't talk about it publicly. It's going to impair them from doing activities, and is overall a huge mental stressor for half the population once a month for 30 years.
And that social stigma is not new. In fact, it's as old as time. And what's also old is how we legislate issues around menstruation. Often we don't. And if we do, it's to correct what was basically an oversight, like the tampon tax. Did you know 28 states still tax menstrual products as luxury goods? Which is really hysterical, because let's face it, if they were actually luxury goods, we definitely would not be trying to hide them. I might put one on a necklace or something. And if you're thinking this isn't a problem here in New England, you're wrong. Maine still applies sales tax to these products, and Vermont and Rhode Island only recently changed their tax laws. And if you're wondering what isn't taxed in any state, well, prescriptions, for good reason, right? But that also means that prescribed drugs for erectile dysfunction or even hair loss are tax-free. Now, the tampon tax is something Jennifer Weiss-Wolf has been campaigning to end across the country. She is the co-founder of Period Equity, an organization that uses the tools of law and policy to try and end discrimination against individuals who menstruate. And she points out that you can buy things like potato chips, candy, even a gun club membership, all tax-free in some states. But again, Americans in 28 of those states still pay a tax on menstrual products. Those not in favor of repealing these state taxes, they usually cite the cost, saying it's too expensive or we're going to lose that revenue as their reason for why they oppose this. But Jennifer says the fact that that's even a debate is the problem.
We don't have this debate over other necessities in life that the public the public sector engages in providing. When was the last time you paid for toilet paper in a public restroom? or you heard legislators arguing about their toilet paper budget. You don't, because we just take it as a given. And that's what we're really seeking to do in our work with period equity, is to bring that same baseline to menstruation, and do so by changing the laws by which we live.
So if you're a regular viewer of us here on the 10, you may have seen our show about the wage gap between the genders, how men are often paid more than women for doing the same job. But now factor in this extra cost that women have to pay every month just to function in society. And it's not just the taxes that are costing us more. It's also the commercialization of these products. We are inundated with television commercials. Those cost a lot of money. Magazine ads. Even back in the day, remember when we'd get those mail blitzes, which I actually was pretty cool with. More free tampons in my mailbox, please. But there are also a variety of kinds of tampons, all marketed in different ways to make them feel extra special. You've probably seen the ones labeled active or sport. And then there's the pocket ones, actually marketed to be tiny or discreet because companies know that you want to hide them. Half the size, but not half the cost. They're usually more expensive, which means companies are actually making money off this stigma. And this all folds into the issue of period poverty. It's a real problem that is affecting women right here in New England. Here's Congresswoman Presley again.
The cost of menstrual hygiene products adds up. I can't tell you how many girls have contacted me saying that I can't afford tampons or pads. Can you Venmo me some money? Out of all the many girls that I mentor. Conservative estimates find that a person may spend close to $2,000 on tampons in their lifetime.
And that is a very conservative number. Let's face it, as we've learned from Jen Weiss-Wolf, it can really vary.
For somebody, say, like me, who can go to Costco and stock up on these products and buy, a 6-month supply at some discounted rate, I might end up spending anywhere between $5 and $15 a month on these products. For somebody who has to buy them at the corner store at the very last minute, because that's when their paycheck came, and hopefully it aligns with when their period comes, they might be spending $10 for a box of 12 tampons.
So higher cost for those who may be struggling to afford these products. So what can be done to try and help people who menstruate with this vital need? It's an issue advocates and legislators are trying to solve here in Massachusetts with the I Am Bill.
I Am Bill is an acronym for Increased Access to Menstrual Products, and specifically it would make menstrual products free in all schools for all ages and all shelters and temporary housing and all incarcerated facilities, prisons and jails in Massachusetts.
Well,
that was Sasha Goodfriend, the director of Mass Now, an organization that advocates for feminist policy. And she said other states have passed similar legislation as this, but this would really be the most comprehensive in the country. And she also adds that there's a real need for it. Mass Now recently surveyed school nurses, homeless shelters, and county facilities that house menstruating individuals across the Commonwealth. And they found that 56% of school nurses say they do have students that take time out of class to come to their offices to obtain these products. Now, they also found that 25% of responding shelters reported that their shelter does not provide menstrual products. Jen Weiss-Wolf's group, Period Equity, has found that only 13 states mandate free menstrual products to women in prison. So for those state and local prisons that don't provide these products, that means that women may have to be buying these products at a higher price at the prison commissaries. So while male prisoners can use any extra money they may have to buy a candy bar, women are forced to prioritize their period. Now, federal prisons do provide menstrual products, but Jen Weiss-Wolf said that what they provide would make most women cringe. Here's her explanation of a prison pad.
2 inches wide, maybe 6 inches long, and the sticky thing doesn't stick. And that's it. And you might get, 3 or 5 or 10 of those a month.
And if you're thinking, that's it, that's exactly the issue. How many products or what kind of products women need is apparently a real blind spot for people who don't menstruate. Recently, comedian Marsha Belsky had a major viral moment thanks to a song she wrote, and it explains a real-life story about what happened to the first female astronaut ahead of her first space mission. Take a listen.
Remember when NASA sent a woman to space for only 6 days, and they gave her 100 tampons, 100 tampons, and asked, will that be enough?
It goes on to say basically our greatest minds at NASA had to ask Sally Ride if that was an appropriate amount. Well, listeners thought this song was so spot on that it went viral last spring on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, with everyone from celebrities to everyday people lip syncing its lyrics. So I caught up with Marsha Belsky herself, and she says she was actually surprised it was such a hit, mostly because for years she's been told to scale back the period jokes.
In comedy especially, it's like people don't want people to do too many period jokes, and it's like fine, and you know, I don't even do that many period jokes, but if you do one or two, there's always a guy that comes up to you after like, I liked your stuff, but that period joke, da da da. And it's like, how many times have I heard a man talk about his penis on stage or hump a stool? You know, it's like, I can do my material too, and this is my body, and I think that jokes can help ease the stigma around it.
And experts say another way we can end this stigma is by how we are teaching our children about menstruation. Here's Dr. Catherine White, a local OBGYN and Boston University professor of gynecology.
Period stigma starts in schools when the boys are separated from the girls and they are getting this message that periods are something taboo, shameful, things that you shouldn't be talking about in a public place, and that the girls actually have to be kept separate from you to have these conversations. That's the first message that most boys hear about menstruation. So it's really no wonder that men grow up to have absolutely no idea what periods are like for people who have them and don't.
Oh my God! Did somebody from Needham hear our show? Because we had someone call in last week, giving the rationality of pornography, because going back to the very same subject where we don't get a really good view of the lady parts the way the girls do. It was kind of a little eerie that we've had the same conversation, almost like carbon copy. But anyway, I digress.
Always take them as seriously as they should.
So there's a lot of ignorance around the subject of periods. So here's Dr. White again to dispel some misconceptions.
I think that many people who don't menstruate think of periods as something that happen at the same time every month, only lasts for a couple of days, and doesn't reflect a lot of bleeding. And that is not the experience for a lot of people who have periods. Periods can come twice in a month. They can last a week or longer. People can use up to 10 menstrual products in a day if they are fighting heavy cycles for whatever reason. And I don't think people who haven't been through it always have that deep understanding of just what it's like to have to deal with this kind of bleeding on a regular basis for decades.
And the good news here is the waiting period for action on menstrual equality does seem to finally be ending. It's a fight that is gaining a lot of steam. In fact, advocates got a big win with the Federal CARES Act that was passed during the pandemic. It included a provision that allowed tampons and pads to be bought with flexible healthcare spending accounts. Now, not everyone has these kinds of accounts, but the fact that for a long time you could use them to buy bandages or gauze to stop bleeding, but not a pad, is really kind of unbelievable. And advocates are hoping to piggyback on that win by changing how we feel and talk about menstruation. You may remember we started off this show with Ayanna Pressley saying it's not a curse or an omen. It's actually a natural process that facilitates life. And Dr. White says it's something that should be celebrated.
I want people who don't menstruate to know that people who have periods are not weak, that bleeding does not make you weak. It is actually a sign of strength. It means that your body is healthy enough to get ready to bring new life into the world every month for years, which is an extraordinary thing that should be celebrated and shouldn't be something that people are made to feel ashamed of.
I gotta give that a standing ovulation, that side. Yeah, I couldn't help the pun, guys. But what a way to reframe our thoughts and conversation around menstruation, because really, at the end of the day, yes, I'm gonna use this like a microphone, none of us would be here without periods, period.
Okay, so that's a 12-minute report that was on the top of that broadcast. Interesting stuff. In terms of let's see, Michael has anything to say, 'cause I heard him talk and then we apparently cut him off. You got anything else to say, Michael?
I know, it was kind of funny.
You thought it was kind of funny? Okay. In terms of the timing, the timing of the show. Yeah, of what we were talking about.
Oh, okay.
Okay, it seems like we're out of sync here with Michael. It's just,
Okay.
alright, anyhow, sorry about that. We just kind of didn't roll it out or didn't let it flow properly. Just one other thing I would add on to that. Thank you for thank you for referring me for the most wildest stuff on the interwebs, because was he the one that gives the time matrix link? Yes, one thing about that Jackie Bruno put a lot of interesting points, especially with female news talent. I think that shocked me. Um, um, that kind of shocked me a little bit. That was interesting. But one thing on the PMS, I hate to be on the the opposing view on that, but I am on the camp of everyone should have to have control of their hormones no matter what gender they are. Now, normally it's boys with not being horny against girls, but that's what you say as a teenager. But at the same time, I would flip that around, and I've not changed from that view, because I do think a woman is it. I think it's more on the camp of I shouldn't have to pander to my way of expressing to somebody, because then I find that kind of sexist. But I can kind of understand it. I go through pain, not menstrual pain, but I do have my hormonal stuff, because I kind of am kind of like that kind of dude, and I've talked about it. Well, not on the weekly zoo, but in my friends know about my monthly, and people would know at the end of the month I'd be a male bitch. So I understand it, and I go through cramps and pain sometimes. I go through pain in different ways that's unusual, and I just kind of hide it. I don't really show it. Not because I'm a guy or anything like that. I just I don't want people to get all concerned for me, I guess. So I totally understand it. It was rather an interesting, like I said, it was an interesting piece that Jackie Bruno spent 12 minutes on the 10, which I think it's the most amount of time I've watched a 10 p.m. show on Necn in a while, because like I said, I haven't really watched local news. Isn't what it used to be. It's changed a little bit. I think we all know that, so I don't have to go on that. But yes, Jackie rocks. So that's a good one. All right, we'll come back for a third part and answer some more calls on this taped edition of the Love and Relationships Hour before we go on my summer break from producing. So be back in a moment.